I'm back. So I just want to talk about the AB5. So the AB5 will affect gig workers, Uber Eats, DoorDash, Lyft, those type of gigs. And how will that affect the truck drivers? Okay, so you are now considered an employee of a business in California. So I'm going to let's look at some stuff right now. We're going to pull it up. Give me just a moment. Share my screen. And we're going to take a look at this. Here it is. So the Assembly Bill, right? Passed by the California State Legislature and signed into law by Governor Gavin Newsom in September 2019, effectively reclassifies large number of workers in the state as employees rather than independent contractors. AB5 in the trucking industry, how this California bill could what? Impact driver capacity, right? So whether you move freight in California or not, you're likely heard about a recent piece of employment legislation that could change the transportation landscape. Government regulations often have a major impact on the supply chain, but it's rarer than an employment law in an individual state. It's much of a game changer. As of June 30th, 2022, AB5 is now in effect. But there's been a lot of news spanning many months on this topic. So we put together this AB5 deep dive to get a clear, easy to digest review for logistics professionals. What you learn in this AB5 deep dive. Now, so you go through I'm not going to read all of these, but pay attention, read this stuff right here. What is the AB5 bill? Okay, we just went over that. Assembly Bill 5, passed by the California State Legislature and signed into law by Governor Gavin Newsom in September 2019, effectively reclassifies large numbers of workers in the state as employees rather than independent contractors. Initially championed by labor unions throughout California as a way to bring employee benefits to the gig economy, AB5 replaces an existing standard for classifying workers. AB5 has a new 3-point ABC test where a worker is assumed to be an employee unless they meet each of the following 3 criteria. They are free from the control and direction of the hiring entity when performing their work. The work performed is outside the usual course of hiring entity's business. C, the worker is customarily engaged in an independently established trade occupation of business. While this regulation is not the only one structured this way in the US, many states use a similar ABC test to determine worker classification. It is the strategist and hardest to pass. At issue specifically is item B, particularly for California-based truckers. Most other states with ABC tests only deny independent contractor status if workers regularly perform the work in the same location. By trying to test to the usual course of hiring entity business, however, AB5 has created a much higher standard for employers to classify a worker as an independent contractor. And are the trucking companies included in the AB5? Whether or not AB5 applies to the trucking industry was topic of heated debate in a series of court cases. There was a federal injunction exempting trucking companies from AB5. However, on June 30th, 2022, the injunction was lifted when the Supreme Court of the United States declined to hear the case. In short, yes, trucking companies are included in AB5 from initial passage of the bill in 2019 until July 2022. They were not included based on a federal court injunction. When the Supreme Court of the United States declined to hear the case, aka granting a writ of certiorari, the appellate court's ruling upholding AB5 took precedence and the injunction was lifted. Okay, why does it matter if AB5 applies to trucking companies? AB5 could fundamentally reshape the way carriers and drivers do business in California, and it could be a sign of things to come throughout the rest of the country. Okay, motor carriers operating in California now have to either reclassify thousands of drivers that are currently operating as independent contractors to employees, or fundamentally change the way the two parties interact. As full-time employees, trucking companies are obligated to do things like provide benefits and pay payroll tax for them. For that portion, the driver base is now much more expensive to use owner-operators, and affected drivers have much less flexibility in choosing their work. Many independent contractors work part-time under contract with trucking company and part-time on their own. This way of life will likely vanish in California under AB5. What happens in California? As the largest state economy in the US and home to the busiest North American port, it has the potential to spread to other states or even federally. Will the AB5 bill affect the entire trucking industry? Even though it is only currently a concern for a subset of drivers in California, AB5 could have major implications for the entire trucking industry. It's effectively creates two separate labor pools for owner operators in the US, one in California and one in the rest of the country. In the short term, carriers will need to find ways to segment their operations across the boundary between these two environments. Let's see. In the longer terms, the law might also have deeper repercussions across the industry. Other states should emulate the policy in the coming years. We may even see a federal level regulation to adopt a similar ABC test. AB5 has the potential to destabilize the trucking labor market in California, which could create challenges for any company who needs to move freight in the state. Capacity could take a hit if truckers decide to leave the state, and rates could rise if carrier expenses go up when they have to pay drivers as full-time employees. What kinds of drivers would AB5 impact? Okay, currently there are 70,000 owner operators driving in California who are affected by AB5. However, the most profound impact of the law is felt by a slightly smaller subset of them. The total setup for hire drivers exists on a spectrum, but you can divide them into a few major groups. Okay, so I'm not going to go into all of that, but I'm going to leave the link below. Go ahead and read the rest of this, and I just want to go into it a little bit. There's a lot on this, but this is very important for the trucking industry. I hope you enjoyed this segment. One moment, let's get out of this screen. Yeah, so I hope you're enjoying that segment. And yes, that's a lot to talk about right now. Tell me what you think, like, comment, subscribe, you know the routine. Talk to you later.